Yo, what's up? It's me, the boy, here today in Southern Light Studio with a very special guest, Mr. Braeden Cooper.
About it, buddy.
How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Happy to be here.
That's good, man. We're happy to have you here, and I can't wait to
it.
get to learn more about you, and for these folks watching to get to learn more about you. So,
Absolutely.
Hey, with no time wasted, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
So, man, raised right here in Bonifay.
Hometown.
That's it. Been here my whole life. I guess I'm not planning on going anywhere. I put down roots,
Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. How was it growing up in Bonifay, the rodeo life,
I didn't really get involved too much with that until I was a little bit older. Yeah. So
Okay.
Actually, right after high school, every guy around here kind of goes through that phase, where they're like, I want to be a cowboy. I started doing the rodeo thing, rode bulls for a little bit.
Really?
Realized really quick that wasn't for me. So yeah, I don't like pain, so it just didn't work out.
Hey, that's crazy. What was that like?
It was fun. I mean, it was an adrenaline rush while it lasted. It was fun till it wasn't,
Yeah, until you got stepped on or something.
That's it.
So, man, what was the childhood of Braeden Cooper like?
So, man, I lived actually most of my childhood with my grandparents. I had a super close relationship with my grandparents. It kind of bounced back and forth between there and with my mom. It wasn't that I had a bad home life with my mom. It was just,
Grandparents is where it was at.
I had a great relationship with my grandparents. So spent a lot of time there, was raised by them for most of my childhood. And then, I was 12, 13, moved back in with my mom, kind of finished things out there. And so on through high school.
That's awesome, man. I kind of had the same situation with my grandparents, so I understand.
Yeah.
So what was one of your favorite memories as a kid?
Man, I had so many.
So many? There's not one that you always go back to. It's like, wow, I remember this time with my grandma or my granddad.
I have this story that my nanny's always told me, from when I was young. So I didn't know until my mid-teenage years who my biological father was.
Oh, really?
So, when I lived with my mom, my stepdad, and my stepdad was always dad.
Right.
That's what I always called him. And anyway, I found out, years later, he wasn't my actual dad, and so found out who my biological father was, but I was always kind of curious about that, So whenever I was younger, they tell me that, my papa was out in the shop. We've always messed with old hot rods and, old cars, stuff like that. So that's kind of always been our thing. So, I was little, and, so little and so young, in fact, that English was not, great.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so he's under the car, working on the car, and then they tell me, they're like, I asked him, I was like, hey, Pa, is you my dad?
Is you my dad?
Yeah, he's like, no, bud, and I was like, well, why cuz, Pa? So I was like, I knew, but, I every memory really that I look back on, I was with him.
Yeah.
We did everything together.
Really?
And so
that kind of leads me into my next question. Who was the most influential person to you growing up?
he definitely was.
Definitely was?
He definitely was. He was the person who made me who I am now.
Really?
He showed me what it was, what it meant to be a man, what a man was supposed to be. And he showed me, the life that a man of God is supposed to live.
Right.
And so he was definitely the big influencer in my life.
Oh, man. Well, that's awesome, dude. That's so awesome. Do you have any siblings?
I do.
do?
I actually have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and a boatload of cousins.
A boatload.
I don't even know how many of us there are anymore.
Yeah,
There's a bunch.
So there's a lot of them. How was it growing up with your siblings? Did y'all live together?
Yeah. Actually, whenever I moved back in with my mom, we all lived in the same house. So there was 5 of us, and then mom and dad. So we all had a good relationship. We all obviously all picked on each other. We were all mean to each other. It just comes with the territory.
Right.
But all had a good relationship. I don't have any complaints there.
That is awesome, man. So are you the youngest, the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay, so how was it growing
I was the
up?
bully.
Okay, so you was that was kind of what I was getting.
That's a joke.
Not really, but the sibling little fights.
Obviously I had to pick on.
So you had to have your fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you the only musical?
No, actually. So we do have, bless him, Anthony. He can't sing. He can't sing, man.
Anthony,
no,
that's your brother?
Yeah, it's my brother. So actually, the other 4 of us actually are the ones that started the band.
Wow, okay, I did
so
not
we
know
were.
that.
Yeah, so at the beginning, the entire band was nothing but family.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty wild. God just really brought that together. It's pretty crazy how it all came about.
That's wild.
So we've all been singing our entire lives, and then I've been playing guitar for, I don't know, 20 years, somewhere along there, as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then when the band started, my little brother, Jada and Haley, they both sang with me already.
Yeah.
And then my little brother, Jacob, he's like, we're getting ready for practice. He's like, I want to go. I'm like, okay, sure. I don't know why, but okay, come on. So we didn't have a bass player at the time. And so we're at practice, and we're just kind of going through things, whatever. I turn around, I'm talking to the drummer, and when I turn back around, Jacob's not sitting on the back pew of the church anymore. And I'm like, where'd he go? Where did this kid run off to?
Yeah.
So anyway, I turn back around, and he's standing on the edge of the stage. He's got the bass. He's picked it up, just randomly picked it up. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I just, wanted to play with the bass. I'm like, all right, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
So where it came from, I don't know. Dude just picked up the bass and was just able to play it. I don't know how. I still don't know how, but, God-given talent's the one thing I can say.
Think it was watching Big Brother a little bit?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't play nothing, so kudos to him for picking it right up.
That's right.
So as a kid, it sounds like you had a great childhood, man.
Absolutely.
Was there ever any difficult times that you went through or anything that you faced as a kid that was like very challenging?
I wouldn't say that I really faced any difficult trials or anything as a kid. And I actually had that conversation with my papa multiple times. I was like, I hear people, tell these amazing testimonies, and they just give this amazing story of, well, God's done this for me, and he's delivered me from this, and he's brought me from this. And I'm like, I don't have that. I guess I really didn't face too much difficulty, I guess, growing up.
Right. That is a blessing itself.
It is.
That is a blessing itself for sure. Did you ever face any self-doubt as a kid?
I think we all do.
Yeah.
I wasn't popular in high school. That's everybody's thing for whatever reason. We're so worried with impressing everybody in high school, stuff like that. I didn't have that, and so I guess, self-conscious maybe, and I'm sure it's something that every guy, every girl, whoever does is like, I'm not the best looking thing out there. Like, am I ugly?
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody does.
That's a phase we all go through. So what got you into music?
So I got started in music at a very, very young age in church. There's a picture floating around somewhere of I was so small when I got involved that the mic stand let all the way down was still too big. So they would let the mic stand all the way down, set it off the stage, and I would stand on stage to be able to reach the mic.
Wow.
Couldn't play a note, but I would fram my guitar like crazy, and I would sing my heart out.
Really?
And it probably wasn't very good. I don't remember. But, Brother Melvin and Sister Margaret, they bought me my first guitar. It was back, I don't know if you remember, Walmart used to have guitars.
They did.
They did years ago. It was First Act.
Man, that's the first time I've ever felt like I was old, like getting old or something. That's
years,
weird.
Man. So they got one from there because I showed an interest. I had the hair going on. They called me punk rocker. So I had the whole mullet thing. My hair was spiky. It was long.
Yeah.
So anyway, I showed an interest in the guitar, and so they bought me this guitar, and so I had an interest, and so I just went with it.
Yeah.
So here we are, 20 years later.
Started out with the Walmart guitar, and look where you are,
That's
bro.
it, man.
So what got you motivated into writing music? Have you always wrote music?
I guess you could say I always have. I mean, I've always kind of made up melodies and things like that, and I've written a few songs, and nothing that I think is top tier. I'm just not there, I don't guess. But, and you can laugh if you want to, but most of the thoughts that I've had for a song actually came to me in the shower. It's pretty wild.
I'm not going to laugh because that's crazy. It's the weirdest places that these ideas come to you at. And it's like, if you don't write it down right then,
it's true.
You're never going to remember.
It's true. I had one come to me at work the other day, and I'm like, oh, that'd be awesome. Like, had a melody and everything. Got back, went to write it down. Was like, it's gone. I don't have it anymore.
Yep.
So, But yeah, man, I've always kind of, I guess, the music that I've written has kind of been feelings based. I guess, it's always been, Christian gospel oriented, but it's always been, one of the very first songs that I wrote, it was after having a conversation with my mom, and,
Really?
and she's, she was going through some things, and she's like, well, I feel like a failure. I feel like a failure as a mom. I feel like, a failure as a Christian, like as a wife, I'm a failure. And I'm like, I'm 16. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Like I don't have the experience to be able to, to help you through this.
Right.
And so I just did the thing that I knew to do. I've always ran to music with everything.
Man, that's awesome.
And so, went in my room, just locked myself there. I'm like, God, I don't know what to say or what to do at this point, And so I just sat down with my guitar, started writing, and that's when God gave me my song, That's When You Save Me, And so that's when I wrote that one.
Okay. So you actually, I caught it. Did you perform that at Southern Lights, or did you enter Southern Lights with that? Where have I seen that from?
I haven't entered Southern Lights with it. It was my first release through Paradigm Records.
Yes. Okay. Oh, that's where I've heard that. So what was the emotions, writing that? That had to be.
It was
wild.
It was, I guess worry and concern for my mother. It's like, because, I had been there, I knew what it was like to feel like, God had forsaken me and that there was no hope for me. And, I need a hand,
Right.
I need a hand. And so I guess it was kind of, just worry for her and really just wanting to lift her up and really wanting to encourage her, and I didn't know how to do that. So I had to go to the one who did,
Hey, what is your creative process like? When you sit down and write, do you have a certain thing you have to do, or what's Braeden's way of writing?
I honestly couldn't tell you. Every now and then, if I'm reading through my Bible or, riding down the road, a word, or I'll see something or something like that. It's like, man, there's a message in that.
Yeah.
That would make an amazing song. And that's actually where, most of the songs that I've written, that's where they've come from. And so, whenever I get that thought or whatever, it just plays over and over and over in my head. And then, I'm like, man, I've read about something that fits really well with this in the Bible, and I'm going to search it out,
Right.
And so, God just really just begins just to put these thoughts together that just, they just have, great synergy,
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this actually just, it's crazy how this works out. I like this,
Right.
So it's just, and then obviously, there's the scratching out, like I'm the same as you, I write on paper because I mark a bunch of stuff out, it's not the same, to me when you type it on a computer and you're like, backspace, because
Right.
it's not there anymore. It's like, I don't know, I might could take this one that I came up with here and marked out, and this one I can make a really good line out of the two,
Yes.
so I can actually see, where I started, where I ended up, and kind of where I was in between, and so I guess maybe there is more of a process to it than I've ever
Right.
thought, but.
So you're a pen to paper guy. What I see with a lot of artists nowadays, I'm a pen to paper guy. A lot of people like to type on their phone. It's just the actual process itself of writing.
Right.
Is that soothing to you? Like, I'm in my zone. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
It can be,
Yeah.
and there have been times that I've found great encouragement, and a great uplifting, in my spirit through, sitting down and writing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you know as good as I do, there are times when it's really stressful. It's like, I need one more line and I don't know what to do. I'm stuck.
Be stuck on one line for 3 months.
That's
and
it.
Just like,
That's it. That's where I'm at with one we're working on right now.
Yeah.
I've been stuck for months. It's like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just going to wait.
That is one of the trials as an artist. That's like, you're a songwriter, obviously. What is some of the difficulties that you have faced from songwriting? That being one, anything else?
Worried about what somebody else is going to think about the song is a big one for me.
Yeah.
It's like I wrote this. What if it's garbage?
Right.
People are going to laugh at this. People are going to think this is a bad song. So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that for me, that's I want to put out good product. I want to put out a good song. I want
Right.
to put out a song that's going to relate to somebody. That somebody's going to be like, you remember that line in that song?
Mm-hmm.
That line stuck with me. And
Right.
I'm hard on myself because I want every song that I write to be that way.
Yep.
Where somebody's like, yeah, I remember this song that, that Braeden wrote, and that song got me through a really hard time in my life, or, you know, I remember this specific line in this song and it just changed my whole situation, you know, and it's just, I worry a lot about what somebody's going to think about the music that I wrote. So that's something I'm really hard on myself about.
I truly feel like we all are, man. You know, it's just one of those things we can't beat. What are some of the obstacles that you face with, you know, being involved in church, being a family man, being a full-time firefighter? You know, what are some of those obstacles?
Yeah, so when people hear the word Christian, you know, or you know, they know that you go to church, whatever, you're held to a different standard. You know, you really are.
I can agree with that.
You know, and so as a Christian artist and, you know, somebody who, you know, actually does have some sort of presence in the music industry, you know, people are looking at you, you know, and you're like, man, you know, I've got to walk on eggshells. I feel like if I slip up, you know, somebody's going to think less of me, or, you know, if somebody sees that I do something wrong, you know, will I be the cause for their downfall? Right. You know, and so that's really something I think about a lot. You know, and it can become pretty stressful when you start thinking about things that way.
Yeah. So you're definitely an overthinker, huh?
100%.
100%. So as far as performances, you gig, you perform in church. Where all do you perform?
So I'm actually on the worship team at Northside Assembly of God.
Really?
So I sing there, you know, obviously when I'm not on shift or things like that. So, you know, I'm there, and then we have the band, you know, so I take any opportunity I can take to get out and go play, because I enjoy, you know, being on stage with my band, you know, and so we gig, we play, you know, youth camps, youth conferences, things like that. So I really just enjoy being on stage with the band, worshiping with a crowd, and it's just, there's just nothing like it.
Really ain't, man. That's awesome. Do you have a huge support system that comes to your gigs, or, you know, is it just
so,
you and your band?
You know, my band goes with me a lot, you know, and family goes when they can. You know, my family has always been a huge support. You know, they've always, you know, loved what we were doing. You know, and you know, I'm married now, so, you know, my in-laws are a huge support. Like, they go, if we're going somewhere, they're probably going to be there, you know, so they're a big support. And my wife, man, she's been great. Don't tell her I said that.
You heard that. Speaking of your wife, tell us about your wife, man.
Yeah, man.
How'd you guys meet?
Through music, actually. Through music. So,
wow.
And I was actually teamed up with Jared Jenkins. He's a pastor here, and so I was actually teamed up with him, and he and I used to do ministry together a lot. So
really?
You know, I would lead worship, and he would preach. So we did this a lot for a long time.
Yeah.
And so we go to this little church, and you know, I was leading worship, he was preaching, whatever. So we did altar call, and I'm playing the piano, you know, I'm singing, whatever. So church gets over, and this lady comes up to me, Miss Wendy. You know, and I've actually never told her this before, but so she comes to me and she's like, hey, and this is her words, like, this is exactly what she's like, hey, so this is gonna be a little weird. And I was like, okay, well, it's weird now. You know, like, go ahead, it's weird. So she's like, but the whole time you were up there singing, I was just praying you didn't have a girlfriend. And like, immediately my mind goes to, she's a little older than me.
Oh,
you know? So I'm like, what? So I love you, Miss Wendy. So I was like, yeah, you know, this is neat. You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, she's like, well, do you? And I was like, no, ma'am. You know, and so she hands me a piece of paper. She's like, here, call this girl. And
wow.
Like, yeah. So I'm like, okay. You know, so this is one of the stranger things that have happened to me at a show before, you know, so I'm like, whatever. And I wasn't gonna text her. I was like, "This is kind of odd, you know. I'm not gonna text her. I'm not that guy. You know, I never have. I've always been really shy when it comes to the girls. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I've always just kind of stayed to myself. You know? If they don't come to me, then you know. But anyway, so I told Jared about it. I'm like, man, I was like, I'm not gonna text her. He's like, bro, I think you should text her. And I was like, that's not me, dude. Like, I'm not that guy. And so anyway. We're on the way home, and, you know, I texted her, and she texted back, and she's like, is this Braeden? I was like, yep, you know, this is me. And so, anyway, found out her name, and so, you know, days of Facebook. So you can find out what somebody looks like before Facebook. And so Not that it was all looks, babe. You know. So
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're riding down the road, and so I'm like, this is her name. So I look her up on Facebook. We've got a bunch of mutual friends. Like, Miss Wendy was a mutual friend, actually. Me and Miss Wendy were friends on Facebook, and I didn't know it. How many people do we have on Facebook? We don't even know who they are.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So anyway, me and Miss Wendy were friends on Facebook. Didn't know it. So she was a mutual friend, and I'm like, okay. So click on her profile, going through, and this girl is gorgeous. And I'm like, Jared, this girl's out of my league. Like, this isn't gonna happen. He's like, I don't know, bro. Like, she's pretty. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, that's I'm gonna get my feelings hurt. Like,
Her mom just set me up for failure.
Exactly. So anyway, so we're riding down the road, whatever, and so I'm texting her and we're trying to make plans, to meet, whatever. So it wasn't going to work out. This was a Friday night. It wasn't going to work out. That was back in my rodeo days. So
okay.
I was getting ready for a rodeo on Saturday night. Me and Jared were going to do that, and ended up weather got bad or something. Rodeo got canceled. Bailey's plans got canceled, and so we actually got to hang out. And so we hung out that night, and we hung out the next week, and we've been together now for over 8 years. So we were together for 5 years to the day when we got married. And so it's been 3 years and 2 months. So 3 years, 2 months ago, I made her the luckiest girl alive.
He made you the
Just
luckiest.
kidding.
Yeah,
It's a joke.
Wow, man. So your life partner come from her mother having all the confidence that you was going to take her daughter.
So Miss Wendy was actually a coworker. She was a coworker.
Oh, her coworker.
Yeah.
It wasn't her mother. Okay.
Let me tell you how small the world is, though. So when Bailey pulled me up on Facebook, because she did the same thing I did.
Yeah.
I was like,
Everybody does
curious. That. Yeah. That's stalker mode, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So anyway, so Bailey pulled me up and she went in. She was talking to her mom, and her mom saw the picture and she's like, "I know that kid," and I was like, "She good or bad?" You know? So, not that I was ever a bad kid,
Right.
but her mom watched me in daycare. I didn't know that.
Wow.
But she did, yes. So I'm like, well, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So somehow they still put up with me 8 years later. Things turned out actually pretty good. So
That is awesome.
3 years,
man.
2 months, man.
So I went to an outdoor store in Chipley one day. It was after the first year of Southern Lights.
Yep.
And this very nice fella. That was the only reason I kept going back, because of how nice he was to me. And I remember him saying, "Hey, Braeden Cooper?" I was like, "Yeah, I was just actually I'm his father-in-law.
Yep.
You should do
That's
something with
Brent.
him." And yes, Mr. Brent. And
Yep.
I was like, wow, this is a small world. Man, your son-in-law is awesome. So
I
that
appreciate
is
that.
another, he tried to put me on to him, man. He's like, you should try to work with him sometime. I'm like, man, that's awesome.
Hey, we should do it.
There we go. Hey, we just plugged something
Let's
up
do
here. So we know you're an artist. We know you're heavy in the church, firefighter. Is there anything else that you do on your free time?
I do a lot.
Yeah.
I do. I have too many hobbies.
Too many hobbies.
Yeah, it's a that's my red flag. I have too many hobbies. But so we actually, my friend Hunter and I, who actually helps with the All About the Artist videos. You've met him.
Yeah, Hunter.
So he and I actually have a YouTube channel where we I mentioned my slight addiction to old cars, stuff like that. So we actually build and restore cars. We're not great at it, but we do it anyway. Like right now, we're actually building a 72 Chevelle drag car that I used to watch race whenever I was a little kid.
What?
And so I bought the car, and actually we're putting it back together, getting it ready to go racing this year.
So just y'all two, how did that get started?
It all goes back to my papa.
Really?
Yeah. So he had a 72 Nova whenever I was little. Like I loved that car. That was my dream car. And so I was 15, 16, somewhere in there. I found one on Craigslist. It was a 69 Nova 2-door. Like that was my car. It was rough. It looked rough. But found it on Craigslist. Was like $850. I was like, I want it.
Let me buy it.
So yeah. So that was my early graduation gift. He went and we bought it. We brought it home. We had a friend who actually did restoration work because I was not brave enough to attempt it at the time. Mm-hmm. And so he did all the metal work, things like that. So we actually have the car now. It's not finished. A typical project car guy, I don't have anything finished. So the car actually now is a solid car. Motor, transmissions in it. It runs. So it's it all goes back to to him, and he caused my slide addiction.
Okay, so I wanted to touch back on that. You said slide addiction. When you said that, I felt more of a heavy addiction.
It might be.
Yeah.
My wife would probably say a very heavy addiction. At least it's not drugs. It could be worse.
It could always be worse. At least it is cars.
That's it. I'm just going to teach my kids to love cars, and they'll never have money for drugs. So I mean, that's what it's going to be.
There you go. So your granddad obviously played a major role in your life, man. How is that affecting you today? Like,
so I lost him in September.
Oh man, I did not know that.
Yeah, so he ended up getting COVID.
Oh
and
man.
It was the first week of September, and so he got sick, and he was okay for several days, and then he just got to the point where he just became really weak, and there's so much uncertainty that goes along with it. We didn't really know what to do at that point, and I'm a paramedic, and I know what we see, and I know how we handle things, and I know how we've been trained to handle things. And so I was just giving him that information, and he was an old school Pentecostal preacher, and he told me, he said, son, he's like, I'm not going to claim it. He's like, if it's my time, God's going to take me out. There's nothing going to keep me here. And I'm like, I understand, but if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it might be a duck,
right.
And so, talked him into going to the ER, and he went in. They checked him out, whatever. They kept him, and he ended up developing pneumonia to go along with it. And it was a rough week, but it ended up taking him on September 10th. And so I've really, I guess we talked earlier, about the struggles in my life. I didn't have any struggles when I was young, but this was a big blow to me.
Yeah.
And I, being the guy that gets on stage and tells people, all the time, and I'm singing to them, and I'm telling them how good God is, and how their situation's going to get better, and things like that. And it was hard for me. I didn't know if I would ever step on stage like that again.
Wow.
Because I knew that, I'm supposed to be that guy, and how am I going to get on stage and tell somebody you're going to be okay if right now I don't know if I'm going to be okay.
Right.
And I really struggle with that, because, I watched this man. I watched him live a godly life. I watched him live the right way.
Right.
And sorry.
Oh, you're good, man.
So, when you see somebody that you love, somebody so strong, somebody who had the kind of faith that he had, stand and have to go through that, I prayed so hard. You feel kind of helpless, but I did what I knew to do, and I prayed so hard. And I had made up in my mind, how God was supposed to answer my prayer.
Yep.
And I prayed with such authority. I prayed, with such faith, like more faith than I've ever had for anything. I prayed so hard in this situation, and I watched him just steady decline, and nothing changed. And I'm like, after he died, I was angry. I was very, very angry. And I blamed God. I was like, God, how am I supposed to pray to somebody who doesn't listen to me? If he lived the way that he was supposed to, and he did everything the right way, and I've prayed so hard and I believed so hard, and you did nothing. How am I supposed to remain faithful, and how am I supposed to get on stage and tell these people that there's a God who's going to answer their prayer, and a God who's going to give them the desires of their heart, and who's going to be good to them?
Right.
When I don't feel like you're going to be good to me, when I don't feel like I can get through this, how am I supposed to tell them that they can get through what they're going through?
Right.
And I struggled with that for days. And then my nanny came to me, and she wanted me to speak at his funeral. And I didn't know if I was there. I was like, I don't know. But I sat down, I started reading, and the first books that I went to was 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and it was literally like I was sitting having a conversation with my papa. It was like it was like sitting there, and it was giving me the encouragement that I needed, like he had done for me so many times before. And so it changed my entire outlook, and I realized that I had been praying selfish prayers. I realized that I had been praying in a way that, like I said, I had already made up my mind how God was supposed to answer my prayer, right. And there's a passage in the Bible where it says, my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. Yours are higher than mine. You know better than I do. Yep. And so I felt pretty sheepish. I was like, I was wrong, and I'm like, at the end of the day, God answered my prayer. There's a picture of my papa laying in the hospital bed the night before he died. He's got his hands raised, and he's praying to the God that he knew had him no matter what. Right. And so I realized that God had answered my prayer, not necessarily in the way that I thought that he should, or that I had made up my mind that he was going to. Mm-hmm. He was healed, whether it be here in this life or in the next. Right. He had no more. He dealt for years with knee pain and joint pain, things like that. He's not dealing with that anymore. He's not dealing with COVID anymore. He's not dealing with the inability to breathe anymore. And so I had to ask God, forgive me. You did answer my prayer. You have healed him, whether it be in the way that I wanted you to or the way that I thought should have happened. He is better off. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't, I say this all the time, and it's kind of funny, but he wouldn't come back to hang out with me. Right. I know he loved me. I know, the relationship that we had, but he wouldn't come back to hang out with me. He wouldn't trade what he's seeing now for this. Right. So he was, I don't know, he was the biggest, probably the biggest part of my life. He really just, he was everything to me, and there's just no other way to put that.
Well, man, first and foremost, rest in peace to your granddad. 2, shout out to you for, getting through that time, because you're somebody who could talk to them out there that's going through this, that didn't make it through, that was never able to turn back to God and be like, okay, I was wrong. You didn't do what I asked. But so, man, if you could talk to anybody out there going through that, dealing with the anger, the doubt of God, man, what would you say to them?
God is good. He's still God. He's still on the throne, and he still answers prayer. There are a lot of times that we do pray very, very selfishly. Like we as humans think we're supposed to get our way all the time. Huh. It's supposed to be my way. Right. I know what's best for me, but we don't. And so if I could say anything to anybody, I would be completely honest. It doesn't stop hurting. The hurt doesn't really get any easier. You just kind of learn to live bigger around it. Yep. And it's always going to be there. Last week I was in the shop, and I've got a car in there that belonged to him. He had bought another Nova, and I'd started building that for him. And I mean, I have days, man, where it hits me like a ton of bricks. I laid across the hood of his car the other day in my shop right by myself and just squalled for I don't know how long. But it's just, just had to have that outlet. It was just there, Like today's his birthday. It was man. With that coming up today, it was tough. And, just hold on to the faith that God has given you. Just hold on to, the belief that's been instilled in you, and remember the times that you have seen God move in the way that you thought he should. Right. And the way, the times that he has done exactly, what you wanted. Remember that. It doesn't always go that way, right. But there are those days.
That is very true. Well, man, I appreciate you, sharing that story. It's such an inspiration, dude. And so on to the performance side of things. What's one of your favorite songs to perform?
I have several. But there's a song by Mercy Me, actually. It's called Even If, that kind of ties right back into that, kind of ties into that whole, I'm struggling and I need to move. But, God, if you choose not to, then I know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I know that you're still good, and I know that you have a plan for me. And the words of that song, man, it just speaks volumes.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy, because I actually think that we have a video of you performing that song, correct? Yeah? Can we watch that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you guys, let's tune in and watch this video.
They say sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. Right now I'm losing it. I stood on this stage night after night, reminding the broken it'll be alright. Right now, oh, right now I just it's easy to say when there's nothing to bring me down. What will I say when I'm held to the flame like I am right now? I know you're able and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, when my hope is you alone. They say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain. This little faith is all I have right now. God will choose to leave mountains unmovable, or give me the strength to be able to say it well in my soul. And I know you're able, and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. And I know the sorrow, and I know the hurt will all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. You've been faithful, you've been good all my days. Jesus, I will cling to you, come what may, 'cause I know you're able, I know you can. And I know you're able, and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. And I know the sorrow, and I know the hurt will all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. My hope is you alone. It is well with my soul. It is well
Wow, what a performance that we just got to watch, man. So how was it?
And I don't even know how to tell you how it feels to be able to stand on stage and have, even 100 people, out there that are singing along with you, that are there with the same mindset that you have, that are worshiping the same God that you're worshiping, that, and that are able to relate to the music that you're singing.
Yeah.
That song, it seems like it's not a song that we wrote, but it seems like every show where we play that song, like somebody comes up to us afterward and they're like, man, you don't know what your testimony and the words of that song, how they spoke to me. You don't know. And, it's just, man, it's an amazing feeling to be able to stand up there and to have people come out and just pour out their heart to you.
Right.
And then you're just like, thank God.
Yeah. That is a feeling that'll take you as an artist just above the clouds, man.
It will.
What's next for Braeden Cooper?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Any plans of dropping an album? You said are you working on an album?
Yes. So, I've been slacking, man. Honestly, I really have. I didn't realize until the other day it's actually been a year since we released our last song, and so Calvin's after me. He's after me. He's like, dude, we got to get back in the studio. We got to get back in the studio. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've released 2 singles so far. And we are working on getting back in the studio. We're working on new material, new songs. That I think are going to be really, really good ones. And so we're trying hard to get back in the studio to work on those, get those out, and put out an entire project rather than just releasing a single.
I hear that, man. It's album work in the mode. How can people hear your music?
So you can actually find us on Apple Music. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook. We have a TikTok. So, yeah. Don't scroll too far. But no, so Apple Music, Spotify.
Yeah. Where do you want to be in 10 years?
Wherever God leads me.
Wherever God leads.
If I've said a million times, if God has plans for me to, be a worship leader at a church here, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Now, that's not to say that if He also had plans for me to be, Casting Crowns level, I'd be perfectly fine with that. I'd be like, I don't know, man. I enjoy what I do for a career, but if the opportunity arose for me to play music full time, it'd be a no-brainer for me. Yeah. I would love to be doing that in 10 years.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see where it goes. What is it about music that makes you feel so passionate?
I've always loved just music in general. I don't know if it's all the crazy, chaotic, everything just coming together to create something beautiful. I don't know if that's what it is, but it's amazing. I don't know, like music that just gives you the whole the chills. Like, it just pulls at the old heartstrings. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. Everything about music has always just been amazing to me.
Yeah. Well, man, we got a little gift for you today for you to take home with you and remember us here back at Southern Light Studio.
All right.
The lovely little
Look
Southern
at that.
Light shirt, the
Yes,
baby
sir.
blue. My man's going to take off that white T-shirt now.
Yeah.
Well, man, it has been an absolute honor to have you here, to get to know you a little better, for you to, tell the world your story, man. It has been such a blessing to get to know you, bro. What an inspiration you are for artists like myself and to those who's watching. So you guys not going to want to miss this. And just where he's sitting next week, we're going to have another artist there. So please tune in. We appreciate you for coming, man. It has just been an absolute honor, bro.
Thank you for having me.
You guys have a good one.